I'm Nick.
And I'm Josh.
And this is the PUDs Podcast. So what's up, man?
What's up, man? What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the PUDs Podcast.
Episode 2, on past the first one.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah,
we did it.
I was pretty happy. Everybody seemed pretty receptive to it. Got generally positive reviews thus far from a range of people.
Yeah, it was good feedback too. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing other people's joy that they got out of the podcast. So it was you could tell though we were very, very brand new at what we're doing here.
Yes, yeah, we were by no means experienced. Again, I think I described kind of in the last podcast. Just giving this a shot. We talked about it for a while, but it was very cool. Thanks again, everybody that kind of reached out and let us know what you think about it. Again, I'm glad we got mostly positive. We wouldn't have been upset if anybody was a little critical again, because it was our first podcast we've ever done.
Yeah, everybody was very kind, very gentle. But I appreciate the feedback that we got, and I mean, a lot of people asked what this podcast is and what it's going to be, and I mean, basically, it's going to be us. We're two very good friends, and that are going to be sitting here talking about an array of different things, and just between the two of us, we grew up very differently. We have very different interests, very different things that we're into and opinions on things. So we're going to touch a bunch of different things, whether it be hiking, whether it be golf, comic books, beer, movies, TV shows, anime, and we're going to give advice. Like we said in episode 1, we're dads.
Yeah, so just solving the problems of the world, just sitting in a couple chairs upstairs in my house.
Yeah.
And just shooting the shit. So
if you're into any of those things, or you just want to come and have a laugh, have a good time, and act like you're sitting in a room with your friends just having a chat, that's what we're going to be about. So we're looking forward to it, and thank you guys all so much for those that did tune in and those that did subscribe to us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're super grateful. Thanks for spending the 45 minutes with us and finding us on the podcast platform of your choice, which apparently is mostly Spotify and Apple Podcasts by an overwhelmingly large amount.
Yeah, those are the ones. But let's get into the scramble.
Yeah, you wanna talk about sort of we're trying to get a little show format going here. We're just being transparent with people. So Josh was spending some time putting his thinking cap on this week, getting things sort of ready, trying to get sort of a format that we thought made sense. So where's the scramble coming from?
So the scramble, hiking term, big hiking guy, and I'm just tagging along, but scramble's a hiking term. You can explain what it means, because I don't know what it means.
So a scramble basically is generally like hand over feet sort of hiking, so maybe going up maybe sort of a little cliff face or sort of going up some boulders and stuff. Generally, scrambling would be any situation where you sort of need to use your hands and feet to get up over the trail or on the trail in front of you.
That sounds like me trying to get out of bed. Hands and feet, rolling over. But I figured, and it's also a golf term. It's also scrambled eggs. So it's the first thing that you do in the mornings, have a nice big bowl of scrambled eggs. But it's going to be our first part of the podcast before we get into our main point. We're just going to talk about some things, maybe some things that we experienced throughout our weeks that we found entertaining or interesting.
Maybe some of the funny PUDs, some of the funny pointless up and downs sort of the week. Little things that we remembered and already told to each other, but just gave us a pretty good laugh.
I think it's a good idea. So let's get into the scramble. What'd you get up to this week?
So let's see. Probably most notably on Saturday, I went to see the Red Sox. It's really kind of interesting day. It was started super rainy, pouring. We didn't think we had any shot of going to the Red Sox, but the weather ended up actually being pretty nice. It was a good time.
I was shocked. It was pouring. Yeah. I could have sworn that was gonna get canceled.
Yeah, we were actually thinking of potentially podcasting that day, because it literally, the forecast was like a half an inch of rain. Sox I think it was their second game playing the Orioles, and they ended up pulling one out, so that was cool.
Oh, that was the walk-off.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a game to be at.
Yeah. It could have done without the guys sitting behind us, though, which was pretty interesting.
Was it older guys?
Not younger. I'd say sort of the college bro age. Big college town in Boston. These guys, I'm not sure exactly where they're from, but But again, just had this super like, hey guy, I can't believe, man, these seats, man, they're lit.
They're fucking lit.
They're fucking lit, dude. They were way better than the pictures that I saw online, dude. I can't believe you scored these tickets, bro.
The kind of guys that sneak in a whole sleeve of Fireball nips and
oh yeah, they were. I don't know what they were doing, man, but they were getting more than the $15 Bud Lights. That's for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, one of them. I think at one point there was a young boy with his father sitting in our row next to us. And these dudes, man, they're just swearing their heads off and being super rude. And it was funny. There was a dude that turned to them and was kind of like, yo, you want to, like, just chill out a little bit, man? Like, kind of the F-bombs and whatnot. And so with the guy, rather than, just trying to be polite and be a decent human being, like, a lot of people might in that situation with a kid at their first Red Sox game.
Yeah.
Instead, he just proceeded to keep swearing, but said, pardon my language or excuse my language.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
Yeah,
that takes away the whole swear, so that kid's not scarred for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Just
well, it's the Sox, dude.
Yeah.
It's the Sox.
No, it was a great game. Still good atmosphere. It was good to get out, especially that earlier in the season. So that was super cool.
I always have a hard time with those early in the season games because it could always snow. Like Massachusetts, New England area, like it could always snow like any time of year. It feels like, but April. So I always stay away from those games. So you were brave. You were brave going out there and doing that. Yeah, it
worked out. What about you? What were you up to this weekend?
So I went to the Retro Expo in Tiverton, which was kind of like a mini Comic-Con. And I've never been to a Comic-Con before, so this was an awesome experience. And not many people do. I'm a very closeted like nerd.
Oh yeah.
Like I love all that stuff. I love comic books. I love like anime. I love retro TV shows, retro video games, like all that stuff that we had growing up. So it's
super cool because I feel like too a lot of people that are into that are like overtly very openly into that. So you're kind of it's
I sneak in there. Yeah, I snuck right in. Yeah, you can't even tell. They're like, oh, is this guy here for the beers? No, I'm gonna go buy.
He wants to see that dude in a Sweet Predator costume.
Yeah, no. So that was a surprising thing because, like I said, I've never been to a Comic-Con before, and this was not like a giant, huge event. It was in Tiverton. It was at the Longplex in Tiverton, which was a super nice indoor sports facility, and it was cool, man. They filled up basically a whole football field with different vendors. There was a bunch of comic book writers and artists there, which was super nice, and there was way more people dressed up like in cosplay than I expected.
How many people were at it? Like how?
I don't know. There was probably over 100 vendors there.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, there was over 100 vendors there, and it was cool. And my son Jeremiah dressed up as Spider-Man and got to walk around and in character shooting webs at people. So that was pretty cool. And it was nostalgia because there was the old lunch boxes, old toys, like from when we were growing up, those old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys, things like that. And it was, like I said, I've never been a part of that. I've never gone to anything like that. So that was really cool. And the super cool thing was, so I got to meet a couple comic book writers and comic book illustrators. One being Jim Lawson, who was one of the original artists on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the early 90s. He was one of the original artists on the comic books, and I got to take a picture with him, and he signed one of his prints for me, and me and my son got to take a picture with him, and he was a super nice dude. Like Melissa took the picture, and like she was like looking at it. He's like peeking over her shoulder trying to take a look at it. So I thought that was pretty funny. He was like cool, wicked cool. We talked to I don't know if you watched on Netflix The Toys That Made Us.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes
of it. I was talking to him about that a little bit because they had that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode, and so I was talking to him about that.
So did he design some of the toys and stuff too?
No, I think that was Hasbro.
Okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure if he's associated with it.
No, and then what happened was, I think it was like the mid 2000s, they sold to Nickelodeon. And once they sold to Nickelodeon, he kind of got the shaft, and like so he kind of either left or was let go. It wasn't very clear.
That's rough.
But
dude.
it wasn't like a clean getaway. But once again, super nice guy, super generous guy. He was nice enough to take a picture with us and talk to us for a bit, and he talked to my son for a bit. And obviously, my son knows all the Ninja Turtles, so he was excited. But it was cool. So meeting him was super nice because I love the Ninja Turtles. That's my favorite cartoon growing up. And then the other person I met that I had no idea who he was. But we're walking around, there's all these different booths, all these different artists and stuff like that, and I'm checking out all the art, and there's this one piece that just really catches my eye, and it's like a Wolverine and Venom, and I've never seen them together in the same comic or anything like that, so it was a wicked nice print, and it just caught my eye, so I walked over to this guy's table. And I'm like, oh, are these yours? Like, did you draw these? And he's like, oh yeah, I did. Like, no big deal, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool. Do you have any more of these of the Wolverine and Venom? I'd like to buy one. And he's like, oh yeah, I think I got one over here. So he pulls it out, and he's like, do you want me to sign it? And I'm like,
do I want you to sign it?
I didn't know who he was. I'm telling you. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be cool. So he pulls that out, signs it. He asks if he wants me to do it in my name, and I'm like, no, just put in my son's name, sign it for my son, and then he asked us all our names, and he talked to us for a little bit. Super nice guy, and it was Joe St. Pierre. Wicked nice. We had a nice conversation with him, and so I walk away from the table, and then I Google it, who he is, and this guy's like huge in the Marvel Comics world. Like, he's done a ton of comics. He has the most #1 Spider-Mans of all time. Like, I think
the best part about this is that you asked him, did you draw?
Yeah,
did you draw that?
I know. And so
he's like, yeah, dude, I drew it.
I feel like I felt like, but like I said, I'm not.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I'm not in depth in that stuff. Like,
that's
I'm
so
just
funny. Good on him for being so polite.
Yeah,
too,
he was
like
super.
Taken that the wrong way.
Yeah, he was super nice. And so I look it up, and like I said, Marvel. He wrote for Marvel, DC. I think it was Valiant Comics as well. Like, he's done a ton of work, and here I am, some schmuck that just like watched X-Men in the '90s. Like, you know. But he, like I said, he was super generous, like super nice about everything, and he was cool, man. And then I made the PUDs Podcast Twitter, and I added him on there, and he ended up retweeting the tweet I had about him. So he's a super generous guy. So Joe, thank you for making my day. If you hear this, but yeah, it was cool, man. It was real cool. Yeah, I had such a fun time.
Thanks for tweeting about the PUDs podcast, which we're
we appreciate that as well. Rolling. We appreciate that as well. So that was Saturday, and then I went to the gym. Which is already tough enough as it is. So I went to the gym one of the days I was on vacation, and had a nice workout.
Yeah. Got a good sweat going.
Got a good sweat going. It was chest day, so I'm in there getting a sweat, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but like, I just had to bring this up because this was this never happened to me before.
Yeah,
so.
He actually had to call me and tell me about it. It was that funny.
So I'm done with my workout. The gym I go to has a sauna, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go relax a little bit, hit the sauna for about 15-20 minutes or whatever. So I'm in there, I pop off the shirt, whatever, I'm just chilling, and the door opens, and in walks this guy with all his meat out, and I'm like, okay, all right.
Trying to keep it PG.
So immediately, I'm like, all right, eyes away. And I'm like listening to music. This guy comes in here.
Trying to not make it awkward.
Yeah, I'm like, trying to not be awkward. Because whatever. It's
cool. It's a sauna. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's a sauna. It's not a big deal. You can be in there naked, whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. That's not my choice. Yeah. I'm not going to go in there naked, but whatever you want to do, that's fine.
Live your own life.
But the thing is, he's got 3 towels. He couldn't use one of them to wrap around the meat. So he's got 3 towels, and then
Where get the visual, like the 3 towels. He had like, what do you have, like around?
they're all over the shoulder. They're all over the shoulder, and they're various sizes, various size towels draped over the shoulder. Walks in, and then it's a 2-tiered bench. So there's the lower bench, and then there's the upper bench.
Yeah.
This guy slaps his naked ass on the top bench, eye level to the left of me. So if I look left, all I'm getting is the meat and potatoes, dude. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm just listening to my music, sitting there, and then like the guy's leaning over, and I'm like, stop looking out of the corner of my eye, and he's like leaning over and talking to me, and I'm like, okay, dude. Like, so I pull out my earbud and I'm like, what's going on?
Can I help you with something?
Yeah. And he's like, hey, I saw you getting a good sweat down there. Working chest today? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, looks like you were getting a good pump. And immediately I'm like, red flags, but I'm not a bitch. I'm no bitch. Yeah. So you're not going to intimidate me with your dick out. Like, you're not going to... I'm cool. Like, I'm in my bubble. You stay in your bubble.
Yeah. And everybody stays in their own bubble with their own meat in a sauna. That's like a rule.
Yeah, usually. But this guy was invading my bubble. But I was, like I said...
With his meat.
With his meat. His meat is in my bubble, but I'm no bitch. So you ain't going to scare me out of the sauna. So he's talking... Then there's like this whole conversation that starts going on. And I'm like trying to avoid, but... like looking in that general direction, and he keeps doing like uncrossing the legs, crossing the legs, and I'm like, all right, I gotta get the fuck out of here. so I got out of there, and it was like super awkward because he starts talking to me about, I've been eating too many carbs and I gotta cut down and this and that. It's like a whole conversation. Like,
yeah, he was just looking for a friend.
It's a normal conversation, but not in a very normal setting, because if all right, if 2 people are clothed, regular conversation. 2 people are naked. That's fine, because you guys are obviously there for some reason. In that situation where both people are naked, fine. But one person's clothed and the other person's naked. That's no good. That is not a normal conversation situation.
Oh man, especially when you don't know each other and he's just coming up swinging like that.
Even if I did know this man, it's not like you've ever been naked and I've been sitting fully clothed and just having a full conversation with you. There's no reason to be doing that, because once again, not a normal way to be having a conversation. So yeah, that's my little rant. So if you're at the gym and you go into the sauna and you choose not to wear clothes, which is fine, there's no reason to have conversation with somebody that's fully clothed in there. Just keep it to yourself. Keep the meat at eye level. That's the other thing I don't understand. So you had the 3 towels. These are wooden benches. Doesn't put the towel down on the bench, just slaps bare ass on the bench. So now you're steaming up the hams. There's no need for steamed hams, dude. Throw down the towel. Throw down the towel, sit on the towel, and then just enjoy your sauna experience in peace, and leave me in peace to listen to whatever the hell I was listening to. I completely forgot what it was. If the PUDs Pod was available then, that's what I would have been listening to, but it wasn't. So, but yeah, that's my little rant on that.
It's too funny, man.
But you ready to get into the main topic today? You got something else?
Oh, no. I think that's it. I think we can probably move on.
Yeah. So, I wanted to talk about this because I know you put out your last video that got torn down a couple times already for copyright.
Yeah, I ran, the first one technically got torn down, but unfortunately, the music I used, I think it was also used in a short film. The band is Manchester Orchestra, which loved the music, was driving on the web being like, I think I want to do an edit to this. Usually don't have issues with sort of the copyright thing. Usually just can't make money off the videos. I think I mentioned that even the last episode. Like, just don't really care about making money. Just kind of trying to put it out there and share my experiences. But yeah, it got ripped down like everywhere. It was pretty harsh. So I did a re-edit of it, so it is up again with different music by the Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, so you put out that video, and I noticed that you mentioned you squeaked it in under the deadline as your last winter hike of the winter season.
Yep. Yes.
So you basically did a whole winter hike series?
Yeah, so probably, I think I did 5 or 6 different winter hikes this year. So the AMC, the Appalachian Mountain Club, has a bunch of different variations of the New Hampshire 48 4,000 footers list. One of that variations is actually hiking the winter 48 4,000 footers in the winter. So it's after the winter solstice, like literally up to the minute, an hour, and then until the vernal equinox in the spring, which happened to be 5:24 p.m. on March 20th. So yeah, that day I hiked, literally took the day off from work since the weather was super nice. Got up and down before 5:24 p.m. It was a fairly short mileage hike, but pretty good elevation gain. Did Mount Monroe, which is like, I think it was around 5 or 6 miles from where I parked, and about 3,000 feet of elevation gain. So it's pretty steep. It goes up pretty good, but super awesome day. Ended up being really great skies and everything. But yeah, that was my final. That was for number 22 of the winter 48 for me.
I hope you didn't call out of work, because if you did, now you're boned. You're boned.
No, I took a vacation day. Yeah, I should say I tentatively took a vacation day, so I just let my boss know, like, hey, I'm probably going to go up as long as the weather looks good. Anybody that hikes in the whites, especially in the winter, knows the weather's just super changeable. So you never know till that day a lot of times.
So for like those people that don't hike and maybe don't know, when you say the New Hampshire 48 4,000 footers, so what is that?
So it's a list I believe the AMC came up with in, I believe, the 60s or the 70s. And the original design of it was actually to try to get and spread out hiking traffic to the rest of New Hampshire other than the super popular peaks, just because of logistics with trails and trying to maintain them and sort of maintain the ecosystems. And they basically came up with a list of 48 different peaks, all over 4,000 feet. At 4,000 or a little bit above it, and the big deal is they all have to have, I believe it's like 200 feet of prominence from surrounding mountains within like a certain mileage. Yeah, I forget if it's a quarter of a mile or whatever like that. So that's what the normal list is. I've completed that. I completed that with Ash, my wife, back in 2019. I've continued hiking a bunch of them many times now. For people that know what the grid is, I think I tentatively keep track of the grid, but I think I'm like 17 or 18% through the grid right now. Cool. I might as well explain what that is. Since
might as well.
So the grid, as we're going on about these lists, is someone or a gridder in the grid itself is hiking each of the 4,000 footers in every month of the year. So it's like 576 summits, 48 times 12. So there's people that also do that, which is pretty crazy. Wow. But I've tracked that. But anyways, I've done quite a bit of hiking up there. There's all sorts of lists. There's the New Hampshire 50, the 2 of the View list. There's the 48. The 48 takes you to some great areas in New Hampshire. The 52 of the View, I think, takes you to some even better areas. It's really more spread out across New Hampshire entirely rather than just the White Mountains itself.
Yeah. So what differentiates is it just because those hikes are happening during the winter season? Is that what differentiates it?
Yeah, it's a separate, they consider it sort of a separate patch you actually get. It's sort of a separate, it's like, again, it's a gamification, which I think is super cool because it's like literally playing a game of hiking, but it's a real life game that you go up there and you actually are hiking things. You're not per se like on your Xbox being like, oh, I'm hiking a mountain kind of deal.
Like me. That's what I do.
But there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
You ever been in a video game and like, like this is a part of a mountain that you can't go up, so you like do that, you spend like that 20 minutes trying to like jump up the side, and then you have to like begrudgingly go down and go back
and
around.
You realize you can't actually get up and over the mountain because you're just getting denied by the graphics engine at the moment.
That's the hardest I have to work about going up mountains. But so what was the challenges of this winter series that you did?
So this particular winter, I think I kicked things off with a hike of North and South Twin around January. This year, for people that are in New England, we had a really weird sort of winter. I think even up in New Hampshire and Vermont and sort of that area, like they really didn't have much snow even up into January.
Thank goodness.
So yeah, it made things easier. I mean, when I hiked in January, there wasn't much snow on the ground. After the Twins, ended up getting over to Galehead and Garfield. Also ended up going up to New York and did Upper and Lower Wolfjaw in the Adirondacks, which ended up hiking on a really kind of weird day. Tons of wet snow. I probably wouldn't go out of my way to hike on a weather conditioned day like that again. Really long day, like 15 miles, like 4,500 feet of elevation gain and super wet snow. Made it over to Mount Jackson, which is super easy, kind of accessible 4,000 footer. And I capped off my season with Mount Monroe.
I feel like it would be way more dangerous, like during the winter to do those hikes? Are you going by yourself?
Yes, most of the time I've gone by myself this winter. I've done a few solo. I do have a Garmin device that I keep with me that I can kind of text people and sort of keep in touch and just keep tabs. A lot of times especially in the whites, like you end up with cell reception, which I feel like sort of torn about. Like it's nice that I have cell reception to be able to text and say like, "Hey, I'm here," without using a sort of a satellite device. But it's also takes away from the remoteness and the feel of like you're completely alone by yourself, which I kind of enjoy.
What got you into hiking in the first place?
It's a good question. I think originally me and Ash hiked Mount Monadnock way back when, after my buddy Mike, who I've worked with for a while and is a really good friend now, kind of got us into hiking and kind of mentioned like the mountains in New Hampshire. And I think we've always kind of enjoyed sort of different challenges like that, and we were just intrigued by it. So we kind of started with Monadnock and then kind of figured out about the 4,000 footers eventually and kind of got into it from there. And I think the coolest thing too is just the friends we've made, the friends we've already had in the family that we share, like your example, Josh, like we've shared experiences hiking with you guys, you and Mel, which has been super cool. But besides the hiking itself, it's just the camaraderie of being on the trail together, all the ridiculously silly things that happen. From us, like from me, Ash, and my dad, like walking around Lonesome Lake one day and seeing this dude in a white robe that had no shoes on that looked like Jesus Christ reincarnated, or maybe he was Jesus. I don't know. What was he doing? He was walking around the lake. He literally, I swear to God, said to us, no pun intended, he's like, "Have a blessed day, guys." So, and what I still think to myself is, what if Christ came back right then and there? But he came back at Lonesome Lake, and me and Ash and my dad were the only 3 people that saw him. We never told anybody. Hey. So it'd be like if the Virgin Mary appeared and we just didn't know about it.
And nobody would believe you.
No, nobody would believe
Nobody would believe you.
But that was a super memorable experience. So many good, fun times we've had on the trail. And
this is going to be a very you-centric podcast because I do no hiking. I was in Boy Scouts for a little bit. Like I've done Monadnock. You did Franconia Ridge. With you. I think we did, what's the Wachusett?
Wachusett.
We did Wachusett.
Mount Willard. We did with us,
I think we did Willard. So it's like I said, in the last podcast, it's not for me like that. Like you enjoy that serenity and the peace. Like my brain has always got something going on in it, so it's like if I'm walking, I got a little tune going in my head, or I'm thinking about something. So it's like I can never like just still my mind and enjoy the peace of being out and being the only one on a trail or something like that. So it's that's your therapy, I guess, right? Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, especially on a lot of the more popular peaks, like you're not going to be alone even out there in the winter. Nowadays, I've talked to some of the older folks that have come across the trail and were saying that in the winter, they remember going up to these peaks in the winter and not seeing as many people.
Yeah.
There's certainly less traveled ones that people just don't do in the winter as much because they're more inaccessible or whatever. But yeah, for me personally, it's a very therapeutic thing. Been through a lot this past year. Lost my dad pretty much around this time last year.
Right.
So it's been good to really get out there and just be in a cool headspace where you're just focusing literally on hiking the trail. You're by yourself or with good friends, whatever. And yeah, just being out there, enjoying the scenery, the simplicity of hiking, putting one front foot in front of the other. Though there is a lot of logistics that I do enjoy at a time, like looking at the weather and planning equipment and whatnot, which is a bigger thing in the winter, is kind of carrying everything with you that you think you're going to need. But yeah,
that's that passion that you have for it, and that's what shines. But I guess I would ask, like, for somebody like me, if I was gonna start hiking on my own, or somebody that wanted to get into hiking, like, you got any tips? You got any suggestions for people that want to go explore the outdoors? Like, where would you start?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Again, we're in like southeastern Mass, so Wachusett's fairly accessible. It's got a pretty good array of trails. It's all well marked and stuff. Pretty popular. Like, that's a pretty good place to start and cut your teeth, so to speak. If you're willing to drive a little bit farther, there's a lot of smaller hikes in New Hampshire. A lot of smaller 52 with the views that are really great for sort of beginner if you just want to get your experience of like what it's sort of like hiking in New Hampshire. I mentioned Mount Willard already is really good. Mount Pierce is a really easy 4,000 footer. That's pretty, I would say, relaxed compared to many of the hikes in the whites. Chikura probably is a more like intense sort of one, but it's not a full blown 4,000 footer.
I said beginners, you piece of shit. No beginner wants intense.
Mount Pemigewassa, aka Indian Head in Lincoln, is pretty good. Artist Bluff and Bald Mountain and Franconia Notch are fantastic. There's a lot of other little hikes too that aren't necessarily, if you're not looking for a mountain view, like just get out in the woods, like Flume Gorge, which I think you have to pay for, or like the Basin.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, right near us, there's, to be really local, is Fall River. It's Freetown Fall River State.
Freetown State Forest.
Yeah, Freetown Fall River State Forest.
And in Tiverton, there's like, what is it? The Fort Barton Trail is super, super scenic. Like, there's a nice, like, I don't know what you call it, river or whatever that flows through there. There's like bridges that they have, and there's like a nice a little pond in the middle. It's pretty cool, and it's quiet out there. A lot of people go out there with their dogs and stuff like that, and so we've done that one a couple times with Jeremiah, and it's short enough that it's a nice loop. Yep. It's short enough that you can bring your kids out there. But that's a good, and there's not much elevation and stuff like that, so you're not out there like having a heart attack trying to get up and down rocks and stuff like that, worried about what your thighs are gonna feel like when you wake up in the next morning. It's like a nice little jaunt through the woods. Yeah, no,
I agree. I mean, there's always, like, even around here in Rehoboth, there's some good local trails where you can get out. Because I mean, mountain view. There's something to be said for mountain views, but I've been on plenty of hikes where it's just nice being in the woods, whether you're by a river or even if you're just like during foliage season, like just hanging out in the woods. And like, I mean, it can be really pretty down low too. I try not to be too snobby about having views on hikes, but
you ever worry if there's like a bear like in the woods like watching you, or like a pervert like sitting back there just watching you? Like,
I haven't said I've been worried about that yet. I've definitely had times where
now you're gonna have to worry about it. There's definitely some perv sitting behind a tree.
Gonna put that in the back of my mind. I will say there's been a couple times. I know, like when I was doing the Twins in January, I started in the dark at like around 6 o'clock and kind of just wasn't thinking, because it was January. The sun didn't come up in the sort of the valley I was going up until like, I don't know, 7:30 or so, because I was hiking with a headlamp. But I stopped once to just sort of do my business and heard a crack in the woods, and I was like, shit!
You had to tuck it back in?
Yeah. I think
Did it tuck in on its own because you were scared?
It very well made it more difficult, but it's just funny when you are by yourself like that, and you haven't seen anybody for like an hour or so in the dark. There's definitely those things where you hear a rustle and you're like, crap. Like, I think people are lying if they say that you're not totally. Maybe if I've done it more, if you do it more, I'm sure you're more used to it. But there's definitely times where I've been like, oh, I'm 7 miles, like especially in the Adirondacks, I didn't see anybody for 6 or 7 hours on about a 15-mile hike. So you do have those thoughts of like, wow, I'm pretty out here right now. Like I said, it's a cool feeling, but for sure, like, you're thinking about. I mean, I wouldn't say animals are the first thing that come to mind usually.
It's not?
No, I've seen a moose once.
You saw a moose?
Yeah, I saw a moose once.
What's it sound like?
just a subtle. We have an ongoing joke about moose calls, just because
I think
they're
it sounds
funny.
like that.
Just because they're. Is that a moose?
Might be. So you saw him? Where did you see the moose?
It was off Route 2, off the Appalachia Trailhead, coming down from doing Adams and Madison, and it was kind of funny because I feel like you expect to see these majestic animals like in the woods and like maybe in like a nice sort of swampy grove or something at like 3,000 or 4,000 feet, but no, I was just chilling under some telephone wires, basically along. I think it's sort of where the old railroad used to go through down there. There's like a rail trail.
Just eating somebody's Wawa burger.
Yeah, just eating a Big Mac. But no, I was just chilling there, and like literally right near we were 5 minutes from the parking lot, so that was kind of funny.
That's cool.
But yeah, you always have these images of like, oh man, you're gonna see it. Like I think you're just gonna see them in the most obvious spots where they're just kind of hanging out doing their thing.
Dude, I'm so jealous. I've still never seen a moose, dude. Yeah. I want to see a moose bad.
There's still plenty of time. You gotta for everybody. There's a random animal fact. They're crepuscular animals, which means that they're most active during basically sort of the dawn and dusk sort of times of the day.
Why does their chin look like a ball sack?
Everybody was thinking it. I don't know, Josh. That's a good question. We'll have to come back to that one another time.
Oh my god! But so you know what? And the funny thing is, there's the one thing that I remember hiking. Well, I remember multiple things, but the big thing I remembered was no jeans, because I watched this park ranger.
Cotton kills.
I watched this. Cotton kills.
Yeah,
that's what he said. I watched this park ranger absolutely roast the shit out of this dude.
Yeah, they have those. I think that was going up Franconia Ridge.
Yeah, I think we were going Franconia. This guy walks in there with his Levi's on. He's like, "Get the fuck out of here! What do you think you're doing? You're not going up that hill." And I'm like, "Oh, you were right." Like they take those jeans seriously over here.
So for context, the AMC, I don't know if it's the AMC or just New Hampshire, but they'll put trail stewards out a lot of the really popular trailheads during popular times. Like we were up around Labor Day weekend, I think in that case. But they'll sort of advise people and just give them the heads up. Like even though we're down here and it's like 75 and beautiful and sunny, like it's probably like 50 degrees and blowing wind up on Franconia Ridge right now. And the whole cotton kills thing comes from the fact that cotton is just really bad when it gets wet. It doesn't retain many of its properties that actually help keep you warm. In fact, I believe it sucks heat away from your body. It's unlike wool or sort of some of the synthetic materials out now. It just does a really crappy job at keeping you warm.
Yeah.
So that's sort of an idea. It would be awesome if, I'm sure some of the people would like it if some of those trail stewards could tell the people where the fuck you going when they're going up Franconia Ridge.
He really was like, where the fuck do you think you're going? And I'm like,
but I definitely have seen some of them be a little bit more persnickety with certain people where they're like, especially if you're just going up there, like literally like, I got my cell phone and a sandwich, like and it's 4:00. I'm going to start hiking a 10-mile loop right now with 4,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah. And that's, I guess at the end of the day, like you got to be a little brash because you probably saved that guy's life.
Yeah.
Like,
all joking aside, we come after a year where I think at least two people I know of, one of them was Emily Sotelo, which was a pretty big case in November, had passed on Franconia Ridge, both on some bad weather days up there. So, those people, while they might be annoying to some of the people that are going up there, like they're really doing a pretty good service to take a couple hours out of their day or their whole day out and like try to sort of be like, hey, like just so you know, I know it's accessible, it's off the highway, but like it's legit up there. You can get into trouble any time of the year. Even winter aside, those were both like the shoulder seasons, like May into summer and then September sort of into the winter. Like it's a wild card up there. Like I've seen snow and hail on Mount Washington and Mount Monroe in June. On a day that was 60, 70 degrees, and me and Ash got up to Mount Monroe, and it was like hailing.
That's what I was going to ask you. So the weather changes quick up there.
Yeah. It's especially the presidential range. I think most people in New England are familiar with Mount Washington. Its reputation, sort of having the worst weather literally in the world at times. A lot of it has to do with sort of warm air coming up the valleys around it, and then the fact that the jet stream basically like runs right over the top of it. It combines to make some weather conditions that can literally be approximate to Antarctica at times in the winter. We had a wild day this year where I think forget the exact temperatures, but we had that super cold day. Was it back in February, I think?
Oh yeah.
Early February.
Yeah,
it was like negative 9 here.
It was freezing.
But it broke, I think, the ambient wind chill temperature for like North America, and I think it tied or broke the like daytime temperature for Mount Washington, like all time. Like That's it was insane. Pretty crazy. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, so it's definitely, while there's plenty of nice days up there, it's like, again, we're talking about this, not trying to scare anybody getting into hiking up there by any means. I've definitely been in some bad weather situations where I probably shouldn't have been hiking, but
just work your way up. Work your way up to it.
If you get a great day on Mount Washington, man, it's like it's beautiful. Or the day we hiked Franconia Ridge was like one of the nicest hiking days I've ever had. It was like 60s on the ridge and like no wind, blue skies, like perfect.
That's probably for anybody. That's just good advice. Is like don't. It's like if me now in my age, whatever. I'm not old, but you haven't gone to the gym for a year. You ain't gonna go and throw 2 plates, 3 plates on the bench press and start thinking you're gonna kill it.
Yeah, like work your way up to it.
Whether you gotta work your way back.
Hiking or whatever you're into. It's like you gotta work your way into it. It's the safest way to do it. So so hiking's no different with that. Whether you're getting onto some local trails and you want to work your way up. Luckily we live in the age of the internet where it's a double-edged sword where you have tons of great information and sometimes a lot of shitty information. I always tell people not to rely on all trails solely, which is echoed by many people sort of in different hiking communities across New England.
What's that mean?
All Trails is basically an app that you can get on your phone. It's helpful for looking up trails and stuff, but most of the maps, I'd say most of the ones I've ever used are pretty much inaccurate for mileage and elevation that they give in maps.
Okay.
So I still use their offline maps. I'm not going to be super hypocritical and say that I don't use them at all, because I do. But when I rely on planning hikes, I look at legitimate maps, like Nat Geo maps or printed maps, and look at guides and things like that.
Or your topographical map that's on the wall.
Or my topographical. It doesn't have mileage on that, though, so it's not super useful.
Yeah, whatever. Says you. But so, like, if what's the ultimate, like, if you could only hike like one more mountain in your lifetime, like what's your dream hike?
That's super depressing, but anyway,
man. Take the hypothetical.
Yeah. So right now, like, if I could pick one, like, are we saying like just a New Hampshire hike?
Yeah, no, anywhere. Like, if you could hike anywhere, like, what's your dream hike that you want to do one day?
I'd love to do Mount Whitney in California. Okay. I think that's a pretty attainable goal to have. I think that's like the highest it's not the highest peak maybe it's the highest peak in the continuous 48. I always forget. And I mean 48 states, not the 4,000 footers. Colorado's high on my list. I'd love to go to Texas. Has some great parks and some great mountains out there. I'm really intrigued by the Southwest. I've been there for work a few times, but I've never really gotten to go out into the desert.
Like what, New Mexico?
Yeah, New Mexico, Arizona.
I'd like to go to Arizona.
California.
We should do an Arizona trip.
We should do that. That'd be fantastic. We could do a PUDs podcast from Arizona.
I'll do whatever from anywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, those are definitely high on my list. I think anywhere. I've really never been out west. I think the only really exotic area that I could say I've hiked is I've hiked in Scotland a couple times on our honeymoon, which was just totally different because there's no tree line. Awesome. There's no tree line really because I believe they just cut down all the trees at some point for like the British Navy. That might be a myth that I heard somewhere, but either way,
all the people, everybody that's listening to Scotland's super pissed at you. They are so mad at you right now.
Hopefully they're not listening to me in the UK. Yeah. I'm sorry, any of our UK listeners.
I'm gonna tag them. I'm gonna tag the entire UK.
But there's no tree line there, so you just kind of start, and it's like in a field. I think I sent you a video too of the hike that Ash and I did. Like,
yeah, it was like somebody's yard, right?
Yeah, it was someone's property, but they just had hundreds of goats that were everywhere. That's funny. At one point, like there was this big goat that was on like a hill, and he was just looking at us when we were walking on the trail by him. I'm like, I don't know, man, we just got bad vibes. Like, Ash was like, is he gonna do anything? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not the goat expert.
Spooky ghost.
Yeah, but he was just grilling us, and there's like hundreds of goats around us. I'm like, it's just like a bad situation. I feel like he doesn't like us right now.
Spooky goat ghost. That's funny, dude.
Yeah, that was a really good time.
Is it actual mountains over there?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
They have mountains over 4,000 feet.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have. They all have cool Gaelic names. Like I think their tallest peak's like Ben. It's called like Ben McDooey, or Ben, or actually maybe.
Of course it is, dude.
Or Ben Nevis, I think, is their tallest peak they have. But they actually have some ski resorts and stuff over there, which is something I never knew. But yeah, there's sort of a whole Scottish mountain
area.
They get
snow like that?
Oh yeah. Wow. Scotland's further north than New Hampshire is, I think, even technically. So. Yeah, it's cold, and they got more rain. It's an island though, so it's a little bit more temperate.
Yeah,
but yeah, they get snow up there for sure.
Can you hike Mount Fuji?
Yeah.
That would be my dream.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mount Fuji would probably be up there.
I would love to go to Japan, dude.
Yeah, well, the anime. Just have you ever seen all the technology that they have in Japan? Yeah. Japan looks beautiful just in general too. I think all the and I find just the history and their whole culture is it's just fascinating.
I love the Japanese culture. I love the artwork. Like, I love all that stuff. I would love to hike Mount Fuji. I'd love to go to Japan and buy like a bike out of a vending machine. I think
because I know they have crazy stuff in vending machines.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. I'd love to just see it. Just see it and experience it. That's my dream. That's like one of my dream vacations or areas that I would like to go see the culture and stuff like that. I think that'd be so sick.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to go to expand to just the entire world, I think Patagonia is somewhere I've always been super intrigued by. I think that'd be super cool to go to. I'm sure they have mountains to hike.
I have one of those jackets. I don't know what Patagonia is.
It's like the tip of South America, that very end of South America.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just looks crazy. Chile. I have a cousin that went to Chile too, and I know their skiing and stuff is ridiculous.
Really?
We're just proving that we're uncultured people and we don't know.
Well, listen, we're Americans.
Yeah.
We're garbage.
Fair.
And we're from New England, so we're absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Garbage guy.
Yeah,
but
but yeah. So, any other tips for like, what should I get if I'm gonna go hike for the first time? What's like the bare essentials that I should get?
So like I mean for 3-season hiking or just like the general nice days like Memorial Day through like Labor Day, you definitely want some extra layers. You want to have probably a couple jackets, rain jackets, sort of extra layer to keep you warm. Nothing that's cotton.
You need like a backpack then.
Yeah, the backpack. Couple water bottles. I usually take like 2 or 3 liters of water with me. During the summer and spring months, I generally try to filter water if I can, so it just saves you some weight. Good boots, good footwear. Whether you're into, I mean, there's a whole array of things now between trail runners and boots and full on like mid-cut boots and full on boots. Good pair of shoes you definitely need to be comfortable while you're hiking. There's so many good brands now too. I feel like of just different synthetic clothing. Wool stuff is always good. Smart Wool is a brand I love, but just something that's going to dry out quickly. It's not going to stay soaked on you. Good pair of sunglasses. You want a nice medical kit always. You can always check out, if you look, I think on any sort of New Hampshire related hiking websites or just hiking in general, they'll have a list of the 10 essentials on there between like maps and a fire source, and usually you want some sort of medical kit. I'm kind of spacing on the last few ones.
Like any resources that people should go check out if they want to get into hiking, anything like that?
I would say just look online. I mean, if you're looking at the 4,000 footers, there's a great guide that Steve Smith, I think, is either the author or the co-author of, that's really worth checking out. And I'm going to get a lot of shit if I don't say this, but one of the biggest essentials you need is a headlamp if you're hiking. Always bring a headlamp that's working, because if you're overdue, it's like one of the most common call-outs, I think, for SAR right now in that area, is headlamps, because people rely on the flashlights on their phone. And people don't realize, but New Hampshire is really freaking dark.
Yeah.
So, or apparently they don't realize that it's really dark. But yeah, you need a headlamp to get out of situations. Your phone light is not going to cut it.
Yeah, man. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it. I'm sure this is a topic we'll probably come back to, but
yeah.
Winter hiking especially is amazing.
And we named this podcast after a hiking term, and I looked up a few hiking terms. There's some cool terms. I like hike your own hike is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that term. That means kind of like live your own life, live and let live kind of deal. So I thought that was pretty cool, but we're not only going to talk about hiking, so I thought this was a good way to kick it off into like an actual topic, and I'm very interested. Every time that you explain these things to me, these hikes and the different things, I'm into it. I like to listen to it. I think other people would enjoy it too, and we have fun talking about whatever we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. I'll be dragging you along for some hikes too.
I know. And you told me you're going to help me I was going to help you do some trail maintenance.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. We'll get to that one day.
Yep.
You ready for the descent?
I think so.
So next episode, I think it's gonna be the start of the golf season.
Yep.
So I think having a golf preview, as we discussed with Nick and I,
how we're gonna hate ourselves in a couple months every time we leave the golf course, but still continue to golf.
So we're gonna
for some reason,
dude. I don't know. It's fun. It's it's competitive because I'm competitive in everything that I try to do, and I like whether it's backyard wiffle ball with my son. I want to hit a dinger.
Cornhole.
Oh, never beer pong.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever cross Mr. Josh and his wife, don't ever play them in cornhole, because you'll just feel bad about everything.
Bocce.
or bocce. Bocce, I had a chance in.
Beer pong, no chance in beer pong.
Yeah, that's why we don't play a lot of games together other than golf anymore.
I'm too competitive. But yeah, so we're gonna. I think next episode we're gonna preview the golf season. We'll have some tips for people that want to maybe get into golf for the first time, that are a little nervous, things like that. We'll talk about a little bit about our ups and downs throughout the
and on the golf courses.
Yeah, on the golf courses,
and all the up and downs we didn't make.
Yeah, yep. So that's basically kind of a little preview of what we're gonna do next time. Anything else you got to add?
No, I'm sure we'll be bouncing around some topics. One other thing we might get into next week is I also fish, which Josh is probably going to giggle because it's another hobby.
You have so many freaking hobbies, dude.
But so in Massachusetts this time of year, they start stocking trout in a lot of the ponds and rivers and stuff around here. So I don't like to catch and eat fish as much. Just like to kind of fish and catch them and kind of throw them back. But gotten into trout fishing probably a few years back during COVID after kind of growing up fishing and getting away from it. So with that sort of starting up and cranking up this time of year, maybe we'll do a little short section on some trout fishing.
A little trout fishing. And the other thing I want to add is I won the bracket. I won the March Madness NCAA. Yeah, thank you. Give me my round of applause. I told you. The Yukon Huskies. I told you. That team, the size on that team was incredible. So they double digits every game. They pounded everybody.
Yeah, they did great.
That was just a pure luck guess for me. I like the Huskies. I feel like every year that they've won, it's been like a year where nobody's really talked about them that much.
This year was so crazy too. Like we started with our podcast a few weeks ago, and like I think everybody was maybe a little down about that bracket, but optimistic. But it was just a crap show after that. Man. It was just like everybody's bracket got thrown out the window.
It was
Josh won because he was the last person that had any team that made it to the Final Four, actually.
And my team won the championship.
And he did have the Huskies going all the way.
Everybody else can suck it.
And a shout out to UConn and the Huskies. Congratulations, 2023 NCAA championship.
Did you see the women's championship?
No, I didn't watch it.
That one got some heat. There was a little back and forth with what was it, Caitlin Clark, I think was her name, on Iowa, and the LSU team was tough, but it got a little testy. There was some things that anybody that's been on any social media platform has probably seen at this point. Kind of the back and forth about the girl from LSU that kind of gave her the old "I'm about to get the ring," doing the "you can't see me" stuff like that. So it turned into a whole thing, but that was a hell of a game too.
Okay, I haven't gotten into it. I'll have to look that up.
That was a hell of a game too. Yeah, take a look at it. Yeah, look it up. It's if you maybe you haven't been on any social media today, because it's literally been everywhere. Everybody's been talking about it, but probably the last couple of days they've been talking.
And speaking of social media, we have a little. I mean, it's not big news on that, but I think we're at this point. We're on pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah. So any fans of the PUDs Podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at PUDs Podcast. We're on Instagram at PUDs Podcast. Facebook, we're PUDs Podcast. And if you still email,
who would have thought PUDs Podcast was such a unique name that nobody's used it yet?
If you still email, we're pudspod@outlook.com.
I love how you're like, if you still email.
I don't know if anybody communicates via email.
Does anybody do the email?
Not outside of the work setting, right?
On the line?
I guess. But yeah, so if you want to follow us on any of those things, we have some content on there. I actually posted pictures on our Twitter from the RetroXpo in Tiverton.
Yeah, I did that up on Instagram too.
You put it on Instagram too?
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll have some stuff on there. We'll be sharing things on all those platforms. And if you do like the podcast, please give us a like and subscribe and give us a review. And just keep tuning in. We're going to have some fun.
Yeah, and if there's anything any of y'all would like to hear us talk about, feel free to sort of hit us up on one of those social media platforms and just let us know, because we love to talk about everything.
We'll talk about. We will talk about.
That's not
anything.
Already evident.
Yeah, we'll talk about anything. If there is anything that you guys want to hear us talk about, any questions?
We haven't even gotten into me talking about gardening yet.
We are not talking about gardening, dude.
I tried.
We are not talking about gardening.
But yeah.
All right, man.
I think we're about done here. So we'll catch everybody next time, and looking forward to the next episode. And I'll let you take it away, Josh.
Bippity boppity, give me the zoppity.
Bye. PUDs Podcast was produced and recorded in Black Cat Studios by the Pud Boys. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next time.